Well, so we saw the Hisavas of Chachma from Lamayla Chachma Alidei Tzimtzum. And we saw that was the Indian what Chachma was an Akuda Bilvad, the Indian for Yud of the Shem Havaya, because we were talking about the Shem Havaya, which is shaykh to the Esser Spheres, that they are in Atzilas, and we saw that Yud was the Indian of Chachma, Yud. And the Yud is an Akuda Bilvad. And so we even compared that to the Indian of the Tzimtzum Harishoin, with a complete withdrawal of the Ere HaGodel Aratzad, in order that there should be the Amshoch of Mamali Kol Haumin, what was in Akav, Ve'ilu, the Ere that was there prior to that remains in an open of Seivu Kol Haumin, and moved Al Gamri from the Kav. And that's called Seivu Kol Haumin, even though the Rebbe brought down that there are some places where it said that the Gila of Chochmah is not Alidei Tzimtzum. Now we saw that was Ina from Pnimis HaChochmah, and that's what we find that Pnimis Abahu, Pnimis Atik, with other Inyanim that we discussed in the Maimah, which means that the Chochmah we are discussing is Chochmah HaChitzoni, is a Chochmah HaGluya, the Inyan of Gila HaChochmah, not Pnimis HaChochmah. We saw there was only Nisha HaOra Bilvad, and that was Inyan of Abba Yonek Mimazlo, and we compared the Inyan of Mazolis to the Inyan of the Tzimtzum, due to the fact that the Mazolis, which are the Moshel for the Mazolis, is the Inyan Asairis, that the Seyah is Nimshach from the Moyach, it grows from the Moyach, but it goes through the Tzimtzum, or the Dilug, the jumping of the Etamagul Goylus, it has to come to literally a hefsek goda, which causes a jump or a spring and an interruption in the gili of the air, and that's connected to the concept of the tzimtzum. And so we saw that was the Inyan, what Klolis Inyan of Chochmah. Milamayla Mea Chochmah was compared to the Inyan of Ker Hatzemer Bilvad earlier in the Hemshah. So now we saw that in order for that to be Lamayla, there had to be the Avedas HaAdam Lamata, and that was through the Inyan of Tzimtzum, B'kor HaInyan Shel HaAdam, the Inyan of Bitu, the Hanoches Atzmus Eitavke. But that's where we're holding, the Be'ereh. However, the attentive reader should have already come up with quite a severe shaila. And I must admit that the Regazeh, I don't really have a clear answer or clear view to the shaila. Therefore, maybe we could just leave the shaila and go further. But l'chera, the intelligent reader should have already packed the shaila. And that is that we've been learning the whole time that the Amshochef and Chochmah, Milamayla Mea Chochmah, which is Chochmah Stimua, and I feel the Chochmah Stimua, Atzma is Nimshach Mi Chochmah Da'atik, and we said it was Alidei Parsois. We said that there was a parsa between Chochmah Da'atik to Chochmah Stimua, and from Chochmah Stimua to Chochmah in Atzilas, there was a further parsa. And we even compared that to the infant Abba Yonek Mimazlo. We said earlier in the Maimah, Shmini Atzeres, and even in the Maimah Sukkos, we compared it to Abba Yonek Mimazlo. And here we're saying that the Inyan from Abba Yonek Mimazlo is Inyan from Tzimtzum. A Tzimtzum Godel compared to the Tzimtzum Harishoin, and l'chora, the two concepts of Parso and Tzimtzum are different in their very essence, as we pointed out earlier in the Hemshah, as a matter of fact. So why does the Rebbe all of a sudden write here that the Gilei HaChochmah, Milamayla Mea Chochmah, is Dafka Alidei Tzimtzum? We understood that it was Alidei Parsa Bilvad. And we saw that the Gilei HaChochmah Da'atzilas, there was Alidei Parsa from Chochmah Stimor. So Tzorich K'tzas L'chera. What is the Hebdel? What is the Biur V'zeh? And the fact that even though the Rebbe writes here in the brackets, and he makes a difference between Pnimis HaChochma and Chitonius HaChochma HaGluya, and he says the Pnimis HaChochma, that's another in Shaloi Alidei Tzimtzum. L'chol, he could have sent you a Mari Machiv, and he could have said, "V'zeh Mashin is Boya, yes, HaChochma Nimtza Alidei Pasa Bilvad." He could have said that's even from Pnimis HaChochma. Yeah, Mashenkin, we're talking here about Tzimtzum and even from Chitonius HaChochma, and he doesn't do that, which would tend to indicate that everything is all right. That even though we said it was Nimshach Alidei Pasa, it's also possible to say that it's Nimshach Alidei Tzimtzum, and Tzimtzum got it.
What's the concept of a parasol?
Huh?
What's the concept of a parasol?
Well, we already had that at great length in the previous memoriam. So you have to forgive me. I can't go into the whole uniform parts. When you do the Chazor, you can ask the guys, and they'll point out to you what it's in the parts. L'chayra is Lefise is Nishelet Ashayla. Why is it that the Rebbe doesn't make some sort of he could have sent back, and he does. He sends me back to the Inim from Koyach HaTzomeah. And over there, if you look carefully what's written, the Inim from Koyach HaTzomeah, he compares it to the Inim of Parsa Bilvad. And he says that the Amshocha from Chochma Stimor to Chochma D'Atzilus Alidei Parsa. And the Chiddush is that even the Chochma from Atik into Chochma Stimor is also Alidei Parsa. And those are the seen von Tzimtzum. Ja, Gott bedugmes in den Tzimtzum Harisha. Ich compares it mamish to the von Tzimtzum Harisha. So I must admit that the kasha makes good sense, but I don't know what teretz makes good sense. It's like beer. So maybe by tomorrow evening, either you or me will have a beer that we could maybe be matzia, we could maybe be ma'ira in perhaps a dover ha'mishkavel al harayon. But the only thing we could maybe suggest, just by possibility, is that we find in Chochma many madrigas, many inyanim. And so what we said that here in the brackets, that the Inim from Pnimis HaChochma is Nimshach Shalei Alidei Tzimtzum Klal, but that would be Mashma Yishalei Afila Alidei Parsa. We should say that that's the Inyan of Mamish Pnimius Ve'atzmius HaChochma, like we said, the Pnimius Abba, he Pnimius Abba, Pnimius Atik, he Pnimius Abba, that there's a Inyan what Keser Pnimis Atainu, being Keser is Mamish Naase Chochma, Beli, how do you call it, Tzimtzumim V'Parsois, it's Mamish Kilu Yer V'Nimtzo, Bein HaNe'atzolim. It comes down into, well, that's Inyan from what we would call Re'ir de Chochma, what we saw earlier, that the Inyan from Re'ir in Elikus, in Aveda, there's the Inyan of Pnimis. And there's even Lamayla Miseh, there's even higher than Re'ir de Chochma. That's Aish Kashvus, that's Beetle Godel in the Inyan from Chochma, in the Inyan from the Ein Sof. So maybe that's what he's referring to in the brackets, that's in a Pnimius HaChochma. Or in Chitonius HaChochma Gufa, we can maybe say that there are levels. Dainu, that there's a level of Chochma which is, like it's Mavur, that when you're, prior to your gaining what he calls it, the Baruch HaMavrik, as he called it here, the lightning flash of the Eir at the Seichel, well, that's already a mocker to the Inyan from Bina. From the lightning flash, from the Baruch HaMavrik, you eventually get down into Chochma. So we have to say that the only difference between Chochma and Bina is that there it's an intense, almost like a Klau mit der Prat, but it's Ramayla Mizeh. But it's an intense Nakuda which carries in it all the Pratim, and there, as it were, waiting to be, how do you call it, they're ready to be taken out into detail, and that's Bina, that's what Bina does. Ilu, there's a higher state in the Gilu of Chitonius HaChochma, prior to the Baruch HaMavrik. And that's like the Aveda of a mensch, that even before he gets the Baruch HaMavrik, he sort of feels and he senses there's some very deep direction in no matter what town, in Biurei, Maimorech Siddur, that even before the actual Baruch HaMavrik, the mensch has a deep natiyah benefit that he's moving in the right direction. He begins to sense the whole inyan even before he gets the first appearance in the Baruch HaMavrik. So that's, we can suggest that's not Pnimis HaChochma, but that's a Chitzenius HaChochma, like Gabi Emes, a Pnimis HaChochma. So we could maybe suggest that in order to get from those inyanim into Chitzenius HaChochma, there has to be a tzimtzum. And the reason for that is that in order to be a mocker to understanding, Hasoge, well, that's already the mensch. Hier die Emes HaMadreges HaChochma, der die Etzem HaNefesh, or the Elakus. Mashenkin Hasoge means that the mensch comes into being. He comes into play. In order to come into a Zamin Madrega, which is a mocker to the mensch, to his understanding, mamish, which is bina, but for that you have to have a tzimtzum. There has to be, as it were, a withdrawal of the whole atzmas. That's what the Rebbe used. He used the expression that to be tzimtzum ha'atzmas. Tzimtzum ha'atzmas. That's what he used. So what's for atzmas? What are the types of atzmas? We have to say the atzmas of the shefa, how it's milmaila lamata. And that's all in from Chochmah, where it comes milmaila lamata. In order the mensch, hasoge, or is milmata lamaila, or that should come into being, that has to be dafkes for tzimtzum. And the other inyanim from Parsa, from Chochmah Stimor to Chochmah Agluya, are still in or even of pnimiyas. Even so, there's still higher pnimiyas than that. And that's what I began by saying, that we find in Chassidus that Mavur Kama Madregas in Chochmah. Chochmah is not just a one different defined inyan, or each was a Kama inyan. That's what we could suggest right now. So we'll see as we go along if we get any further Baruch HaMavriks, or even higher than that, vinegar to inyan Ezeh. However, we see that what is the Aveda at a mensch, he uses the latata, that he can cause that inyan, how it is lamaila. We saw that inyan from bittul to hanochas atzmusa idavka. Now this lashon hanochas atzmusa is a famous term in Tonchet Temimim. It's a famous lashon which occurs in Tonchet Temimim, and in Be'ikah it comes from the Maimonim of the Rebbe Nishmas Yed, from the Rebbe Rashab, and it means the putting aside of the self. Lechoniach means to put something completely aside. What are you putting aside? Atzmusei, your own self. Lechoniach is a etzem shelcha b'tzad. Now, not to compare with not lechoniach, no lechaniach, I mean to say. Because lechoniach with a comment is like we say in the morning, lechoniach tefillin, that means to put something on. That means to lay it on your flesh. Lechoniach tefillin. Here with the from lechaniach with a patach, that means to put something aside. We have to be careful. You shouldn't say lechaniach tefillin, because if you do, then you're really implying the opposite of what you're doing. Let's put down in even the Alter of Shulchan Aruch, he says you have to be medactic to say with a comment, lahoniyach. Are you aware of that? So you are now, if you want. It's hanochas atzmus, it means the putting aside of the self. Now that's a pretty profound inyan. If you say to a mensch, you just got to put yourself aside. You don't, in other words, you're not important anymore. Lo medavrim. We're not talking to, as it were, to you. You are just a medium to carry out Ratzon Hashem. And in essence, it's written in Likutei Torah, Pasha Riyeh. I might say, well, Pasha Riyeh is a big Pasha. A lot of my Maimonim, what the heck are you referring to? So there's at the end of one of the Maimonim over there, the Alter Rebbe writes, I'll find you the Omer. I know what I'm familiar with it, so I can open up and look at it. But just exactly on which Omer it is, I forgot. Dort steht a Pillig gesagt. And the Alter Rebbe says that everything that was created in the creation, it was in order to serve a higher purpose than itself. And he said, therefore, most of the animals were created in order to do things for man. So it'll be interesting, what about crocodiles and things like that? I mean, they probably, well, I suppose you would say, well, nowadays they make skin, they make all sorts of skin things out of crocodiles. So, coyote was there. And he brings out the whole idea of behemoths, so much as to give milk and to do other things, to look after man. And the idea of sheep is to give wool, and to look after a man, and the whole idea. And the whole idea, what is that, my son? What's he playing with? You mustn't bring that into the class even. You better put it away or I'll have to send you out. I'm sorry.
No, he's trying to turn it off. I'm going to go outside to turn it off.
Huh?
I'll go outside to turn it off. So I'll disturb it.
Well, maybe leave it outside. I don't know, I can't understand the shibud of mankind to those things. It's unfathomable. I went to the mikveh this morning. I counted, just on my short distance from where I go to my house to the mikveh, I counted 6 people that walked past me like that on the street. That's what I thought. Isn't it not? The whole human race, it's turned into a... It's unbelievable. It's just unfathomable. I don't want to talk in the Russian, but I found this guy in the afternoon playing around with this. It's our limit, you know what I mean? During the time of Seder, you know, I walk in, some sort of plug you through. All right. So now he's desperately fighting with it. It's beating him at the game. So anyway, can't figure it. People are so pleased with themselves. You know, they're walking on the street and they're all beaming with tainug, you know. They're able to talk on the street, you know. That's kind of, I mean, it's beyond my, you know. To walk on the street is a dignified human activity. You walk, think about the Irish, you think about something good, you know, say good morning to people, you know, do this, yeah, you know. It's a union, you know, in human life. You know, to walk on the street. No, people don't walk on the street anymore. They hammer away in these devilish things. That's always unbelievable. Says the Rebbe, Hanochis Atzmusai is a bittul, but it's a bittul. We're going to see it's an absolute bittul. Therefore, I remember once by Farbringen that one of my very valued mashpim, Rab Nachum Gold, he's the Zayder of the Rosh Yeshiva upstairs. Rab Nachum Goldschmidt, he once said to a guy that was sitting at the Farbringen, he didn't know much about Chassidus. He said, you got to understand, if you want to appreciate Chassidus, he said that nobody's talking to you. You understand? Nobody's talking to you. It's you're just a boreg. You're just a bolt, you know, to screw in. The guy said, what do you mean? I'm just a boreg, you know, just a bolt, you know. And he said, yes, you're just a bolt to screw in. He said, you only came down in order to make a dear lawyer's barabatati. Over you, yourself, nobody needs you, nobody even wants to talk with you. So this guy was just dumbfounded. So he points at Rab Nachum and he says like this, in Yiddish he says, "Wurde panosa." In other words, you know, what do you have left over? What do you earn, you know? Wurde panosa, it's an old saying in Yiddish. Where's the earning that I have from this, you know? So Rab Nachum said, "Hey, nachanav." Is it a mail? Come to Isla Fisa. That is the altar of it.
What does Helo Hanami mean?
Enoch Hanami. Enoch Hanami is expression in the Gemara, and since yes, it's like that. In the Gemara is yes, Hochanami. That's the way it is. Come to Isla say that that the Indian, so that's what the altar of is Mavai over there in the Likutei Torah, that for example, horses are made for men to ride on them. And I say Ishmael that all the Inyanim in the world have some Indian to serve man. So then he says, what is man about? He says, what is man here for? So he says, man is only in order to carry out the Eibishter's plan. He's for the sake of the Eibishter. And that's what the Mishnah says at the end of Masechta Kiddushin, that a mensch has to say, Ani lo nivreisi ela l'shamesh es koini. I wasn't created only in order to serve my owner. In other words, I have absolutely no Indian of my own. My whole Indian is only l'shamesh es koini. Oh, Baruch Hashem, everybody's taking it very calmly. Everybody's going to go home and apparently sleep very comfortably. And then he says, even L'mayla mizeh, the mensch understands that he has absolutely no Indian, klal uklal, in his whole Matthias. Only dira v'tatain. That's whole Indian what he's doing. The Kol HaTorah mitzvahs, all things is only in order to... So what are the Mishnah say? Mishnah says, I learn Torah and I keep mitzvah. I'll have Gan Eden and I'll have a reward, and David's going to look after me. David's going to make me a whole big Indian, that I learned Torah and I did mitzvah. So he says, oh no, he only gave you Torah mitzvahs, that you should do what he needs. He needs a dir v'tav to him, and you have to have. The only way you can do that is by Torah and mitzvahs. So therefore you have to be devoted to Torah mitzvahs because he wants it. Thank you, my gentlemen. Those are the Indian. As I state dort in Likutei Torah, I'm a foolish piece in Likutei Torah. And I found that's the idea of Hanoches Atzmuse. Hanoches Atzmuse means you put yourself aside all together, and that's one of the highest forms of bittul that we have. It's a very high form of bittul, putting aside of the self. So the Alter Rebbe says that everything the Eibishter did, L'mayla, now has to be done Lamata. In other words, everything is dependent on Yisrus de Latata. What is the Yisrus de Latata which causes Lamayla, that symptom, to be Megala, the Chitenis HaChochma, which becomes the Shorosh of Bina, Mamela, the whole Shorosh of Seidai, Shtau Shalet? He said, you Lamata have to be a Yud, you have to be a Bittul of Hanochesat. That's what I say. You have to be just a Nakuda Buvad, your little dot, and your whole Indian is to screw you in like a screw. So the Rebbe says, Tihine yesh bittul habo alidei izbon. He said, because there's a bittul that comes from understanding in Elokut. Bittul habo alidei izbon. That's not this bittul, but there is a bittul. So he says, "V'hainu shabitul hu alidei b'chinas hergesh oyer eloki benafshe. Shalidei zeh hu b'chinas harotzein v'ateshuk el elokus. Or the hepech, and the opposite, lech fire l'sitracha. Yeah, the opposite of that is that he hates the sitracha. He wants to beat down the whole time. That's called bittul fabuis, because in order to have a zarotzen, which is a chuka telekus, a desire and a longing and a thirst, as you might call it telekus, you got to give away a lot of all the little shtikelach of the retainer, all the little maselach and shtikelach, all the little retainer. You got to give them. You got to give them away. You have to be mavat, and then you get a hergish eloki. So the mensch could say, wow, this is great. What could be better, I'm going to feel Elokus. So you got to put work in. You got to his bonus. You have to think deeply and reflect in Elokus. Then you come the day, hergesh, feeling Eloki. You feel it's a divine in you. You feel divinity. So emes, you only feel divinity how you understand divinity, which is absolutely klum. Although upon him you do have a divine feeling. It's like the aura of a divine thing is meir in the nefesh, in the nefesh order, and therefore he's willing to have a thirst, not for all sorts of things in the world, but to have a thirst for Elokus. But what you might use an expression, it's a paying deal. He's put in the effort, and then he's got this revelation in his soul, and he feels a feeling for the divine, and so he gives himself away to it, and he works with what you call very sharply against anything which is the opposite. And so that's the union of sitra achra. This is one of them. The tight sitra achra means the other side. In other words, not where I am, but the other side. The union of not Elokus. V'hainu, so the Rebbe, kol mashu hu lahepech me'Elokus. Sitra achra is anything which is hepech Elokus. So you might say hepech Elokus. I mean, hepech Elokus is a schwerer word. So it's not like that. Hepech Elokus means that wherever there's a sayinah from Gil Elokus, and you give in to something else, then that's hepech Elokus. That's called hepech Elokus. For example, a mensch, b'shas hatfilah or something, he's supposed to be devoting himself. He just sits and chaps a sort of a bit of not particularly divine shlok, right? Or he chaps a shmuz with a chavu ka'et of it. So that's the din of an hepech Elokus. A mensch, what he's devoted, and he's got this hergesh Eloki, and he feels Elokus, he breaks about it. Or even he's interested only in devoting himself and giving himself to Elokus, isn't it? And that's the Indian. It's a very Peridikizah. Very Peridikizah. And I saw this morning in a sefer, I opened up a sefer. See, people have tainas to me, or not people of my planester. She has tainas to me that I buy for him. I give her the last penny. I remember when we were young, and I was just after married, we never had hardly a penny. I would sometimes just say, borrow somebody on the street. He should lend me money. If I knew him, and I'd stop him on the street, say, maybe lend me 20 shekels or something else to go and buy something. So sometimes this guy comes and I thought I really I just fork out my last. And then the next time I says, no, where's the money for the water bill or something like that? I said, that's a good question. That helped me, I got to start thinking, But the Eibishter helps. But I opened up one of those for him I bought for this guy. I opened it up, and he says, mind-boggling. He's from the Talmidei Arizal. He says over there, a mind-boggling thing. And he says that the whole union from a base Knesset, what's the whole union from a base Knesset? The people meet in order to come together to pray to the Eibishter, to do things, devote themselves to Ratzon Hashem. He said, Misha Soch Sicha B'Teila. Some of the talks are Sicha B'Teila. In the Beis HaKnesses, he said he brings Rachman in the Klan. Hepech HaTov. Instead of the Eibishter, saying, oh, here's my people, they're praying to me, and I want to say what he writes over there. It just shows you how you have to be careful. sure, this reden schmusen. I mean, don't we have to ask for a sefer, don't we have to give a shiur, then you have to talk. Of stam reden and stam, what do you call it? Schmusen and sicher betelen, kijk zo. And of her, all those inyanim are what's called heipachela. And of her, he can't take it. Why? Because he's been misboinen. He's come to a picture in his mind of Elokus. Hergish, Eloki, and remember he's drawn to Elokus. And that drawing to Elokus is bittul to Elokus. Therefore he feels bottled to the Ratzon of Hashem. What he understands of it, the Ratzon of Hashem. Now he doesn't know exactly, he'll ask. He'll be, how do you call it, toward his mashpiyim, v'ka'ita with it. However, said the Rebbe, in that kufa, there's two inyanim. Yesh, ubezeh yesh beisai. In that kufa, there are two where you ought to know.
How do you use the bathroom?
Ubezeh beis, oifanim. Im, alidei is bonanes b'chinas ha'oyer ha'eloki. She'ef sheli is b'chinas ha'gavavon. There's two types of his bonanes, b'ifan kloli. What does his bonanes mean? That you're misbeinen in a divine matter. Or, put it in a more exact way, you're misbeinen in Gilel. Good. So the Rebbe says Gilel, because that the Eibusha reveals towards elements, which can eventually be grasped by the members of elements, as you might say. They have there's two different oifanim. There's one oifen, he said that his bonanes is b'chinas ha'oyer eloki, she'ef sheli is b'chinas ha'sogavah. That there's a type of oyer eloki which you can understand and you can appreciate. Ha'sogavah. V'hainu b'chinas mamali kol. The oil which comes into entry into each nivra and is mislabish in all the nivraim, that's called mamali kol almin. Or you can really understand that inyan and you can appreciate it and come to a grasp of it in your cycle, in your bina. We're teaching now the bittul is the rotzen v'tshuka, that you've given away all your retainers and you have a rotzen v'tshuka telekus. So he said the bittul, which is the rotzen, and the tshuka, v'hakiru, which is also the idea of being near to Elokus, wanting to be near. It's got in itself the union of a limitation. Because since the etzem oyer is a oyer which was mitzamtim and bor lidei slapshus in the nivroim, therefore it's in an even for nagbola. Therefore the type of his pilers and the type of emotional arousal and effect on the autumn is also mugbal. It's a limited union. Therefore it's taki achuka lelakus, but it's limited. He said, and he said that in general will be called what we describe as Aveda Shal Pitam Va. Now you've heard this expression before. It's also a well-known expression in Lubavitch. Aveda Al Pitam Va. In other words, that the Ika Aveda, the Ika giving away of yourself to Elokus, is according to what you understand and what you literally can come to deeply, how would you call it, identify with. Tam is reasoning, das is being like deeply involved in it. Tam v'das, aber that's inyonim which are mislavish in the koiches of the mensch. Why? Because the whole Avon of Asoga was in a Inyan Eloki, which is also Bislavchas, and therefore it's within the ability of the powers of the mind to grasp it. And therefore it's called Aveda Al Pitam Va. Now we see from that can be a pneumistic aveda. He can have a rotzen v'tshuka lelakus, but it's limited according to his understanding. It's not that he only goes according to his understanding, but the whole tshuka v'rotzen is born from what he understood in time v'ta. Well, even a base, a higher even than that, another even in his boniness. Hu shais bonenes he behoyer elokishel mile me asoga vavona bietem. In other words, at the very essence of that oil, how it comes and relates to Elamas, is that it's Lamailamia, it slaps us in the Elamas, and therefore it's Lamaila from Asogas Odom, by very definition. Oil Kimi Sugze is not close to the Avon of Asoga, the Menschbe, but no, it's almost by definition beyond his Avon of Aha, so who begin save Kalami? He said that's the Indian of oil which is not mamale, but that's save. Sha'arotzeva bitu. Shalideze ubchinas avo habilti mugebelas. We just said that the time of das was even bagbola, aveda bagbol. He said this is aveda shabilti mugbal. So where's everybody? Should immediately come up with a kachi, that if it's an agila lakus which is lamaila me'avon of asoga be'etim, then what shaykh is bonan? What's why is bonan is? And how can you become aroused in an ava if it's not something you can understand? And he just says a seivev kol, almin.
Well, how do you get it? How do you get this?
How do you get it? Through Rotzen V'Tshuka. Your beetle is your Rotzen V'Tshuka. Through beetle, if you have a strong enough Rotzen V'Tshuka, you get that. The shaila is, how can you be misbeinen in Malachatchila? So, eventually, that will be the shaila. How can you have a Rotzen V'Tshuka in something that's beyond you? Yeah, I mean, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So I see everybody's waiting for me to do the work. So what do we have in the early part of the Maimah? What do we have in the early part of the Hemshech? We had what we call Asogas Achiyu Asogas Ashila. I don't know if in this Hemshech we actually had it. I think we mentioned it. Asogas Achiyu Asogas Ashlilo. There's what we call Hasoga, that you are masik positively, something which is able to be masik. And then there's a hasoga, which you're not really masig anything, you're only saying what it's not. Remember we had about that? We've had it in the Shurim. That's called hasoga hashlilo. We had it in Samavov. Over there in Samavov we had a parichet. Over there in Avram Zochim, Baba Yom, when they get the Pnimis Takabit, they get the Pnimis Achochem, we had it over there. Yeah. And in Pasha Turles we had it, the Ine van hasoga hashlilo. What is hasoga hashlilo? You're not masig directly Elokus. You're masig how much Elokus is not Olamas and not Nivra. In other words, you keep picturing to yourself how it's moved out, Mizeh or Mizeh, and you go higher in the what's called the Shlila. You keep making it more distant from, and that's called a hasoga. So it's not a real hasoga, but it is. It's like an appreciation of the fact that you don't appreciate. And that's a very deep form of hasoga, and that gives it, the Rebbe said over there in Samabo, that even though you can't be masik because you're being shoylel, you're not, but eventually you come to some sort of picture of what you're being shoylel. That the Eivishter tells you that so if you have some sort of a how do you call it, like a sensitivity of what Elokus really is, even though it's beyond hasoga altogether. And so that arouses in you a tshuka not mugbal, a tshuka bilti mugbala. And that's bittul. Giving yourself away, and that bittul. But tshuka to Elokus in Ha'im, which is on avo bilti mugbala. It doesn't have in itself the of limitation. V'hu anikra, l'mayla mitam v'das. Very interesting. He's teaching out here very clearly these in Yonim. That's called l'mayla mitam v'das. It's not, because you're being misbeina. But what happens is that the hasoga itself lifts you beyond that. That the hasoga itself tells you that really what you're working at is completely beyond hasoga. On the contrary, the whole koch of the hasoga is in our Turin Otmos, the Mailam Hasoga.
Once we're dealing with something that's beyond a person's mental capacity, how can we say that you get more and more? Like, wouldn't it be like time, where just once Hashem's outside of time, there's no real timeline, so you can't go more unless you're just.
In other words, once you've gone beyond it, what is there any more to do?
More to do?
If you just say, well, it's beyond our socket, then there's nothing more to do. That's what you're asking? Yeah. That's very good. Well, but that's a shaila in the whole concept of Hasogas HaShlila. You follow? So according to you, we shouldn't call it Hasogas HaShlila. We should just say, beyond point Masuyam, that's it. Just don't know. Yeah. So Einachanami, the Indian of Hasogas HaShlila is very, very masuda, really. In other words, what you do is you go up as high as you can in what you can be masi. What it is possible to be masi. And then you say, yeah, that Elokus is l'mayla mi hasogazu. Yeah. And so what happens is that what you do by that is you reach, for example, take the of Chochmah Stimor as regards Chochmah Hagluya. Remember we had the whole in about Chochmah Stimor. Or if we take that in there.
Question?
Huh? Or are you going to make something else?
Who's this?
Are you going to Mati's question or to something else? When you go to Chochmah Stimor.
Yeah, Chochmah Stimor. Yeah. So you go up in the, let's say in the Chochmah Stimor. What in Nefesh, that's the deen of Koyach HaMaskil. So normally most people are only makabel from the Koyach HaMaskil. You know, Helen. Of a man like we saw that who's a tremendous balasok, he can go up and even be masik things how they are in Chochmah Stimor. So then what is Ba'im Hasogas HaShlila? L'mayla is there, that if we take it L'mayla, there's a din from Chochmah Da'atik, for example, what we saw. So having reached the din from Chochmah Stimor, he's then Shoilo from Chochmah Stimor, he's Shoilo the din of Chochmah Da'atik. So by being Shoilo from Chochmah Stimor, you were before saying that Chochmah Stimor, that's the ultimate of all possible aliyahs. Then you reach a point where you say, oh no, Chochmah Stimor has already become somewhat a level for me, and then you get a much deeper and a more elevated picture of that which is higher than and incomparably higher even than that level. But at the beginning, when you began, you wouldn't have even dreamt of thinking about Aldis and Atik. You got the idea? But once you get through being Sheila where you are, you get, by negating what you can, you get some idea. That's what I said before. You do really, Hasogas HaShlila is not just being Sheila, it leads you to some sort of picture, even though not a direct picture, of what you're negating. What you're negating is going to be where you are. And then eventually Hashem helps you that you begin to get a picture of that, and you, as it were, you have almost like a hasugi in that, and then you're Shoilo L'mayla. And so then eventually, you get a certain picture in that madriga, and then you go even higher. And so what it means is that the Indian of Hasogas HaShlila is a tremendous Aveda. It's really a tremendous, because what you're doing is you're working basically with L'mayla Mitam V'Da'as, and because the Moyach is a kli to almost unlimited Giluim, particularly Mitzat the Nefesh Elokis, then it's like, and this is where what comes in, what we have to call Seyata de Shmaya. You get like a divine assistant, Hashem helps you, and then you gain a higher. But you're dealing not with direct understanding. You're dealing with negating a previous thing, but yearning for a higher thing. Now it's interesting that hopefully early next year with the Melech HaMashiach together, we'll learn the Hemshech Eta, which is 100 years to Eta. This is Tov Shinai, and it was Tov Reishai. Eta, over there in the first Maimon, he talks about the Inim Hasogas HaShlila. Over there he talks about Hasogas HaShlila. So there we'll learn a little bit more about it. So that's a much higher inyan, and the Rebbe said that's l'mayla mitam bo das, because tam bo das means that you can actually grasp and bring it into your own identification with what you understood. Here you're not identifying with it as in a personal way, but you, as it were, you're being drawn higher and higher each time into a new level of what we call hafshota, of putting out. How do you say, halbasha means putting something into levushim. Hafshota means going beyond the levushim altogether. Arafah says the Rebbe, that brings you to a bittul. What sort of bittul? Chukava, rotzei and rotzen in Elokus, but in a way which is ultimately beyond your understanding. Yeah? Now that's called in Chassidus, that's called the bittul of Chayo. You know, there's, how do you call it? Nefesh Ruach Neshama, and then there's Chayo, and then later there's even Yechida. Well, that bittul mitzad hasochos hashlila, or that's called Chayo, because basically the malo in Tam V'das, but it's still got a certain start in Tam V'das, but then it goes up and it as it were, it becomes mitnateik, to use the expression from Tam V'das. Got the idea? Mashenkein nishoma, well, that's a madreg of chokhmah. That's what we saw before. Well, that's the union of chokhmah, how it's shai tabin. In other words, the union of mamalik kol almin and the asoga in things which are asoga tzachiyur. And then he goes on to say, that's the union of aveda shel mayla mitam v'das. Omno. Bechinas a bittul hanal hanochas atzmusei. He said, oh, but that bittul that we mentioned, hanochas atzmusei, the giving away of the self, who gamkein l'mayla mitam v'das. It's also beyond understanding altogether. Ach ein ze hanaso alidei asoga v'izbonenas alidei harotzoi v'elokus. He said, however, it doesn't come from understanding and from his baininess, that he got from reflection in Elokus, and not even alidei rotzoi, because we said that the rotzoin of v'tshuka to Elokus, they were the vittel. Yes, a rotz and v'tshuka are called, generally speaking, and it's the word rotzoi. You know, what rotzoi means? Yearning and going outwards to Elokus. It's from the word rotzen, but it's a continuous type of verbial statement, rotzoi va shoi, which is written by the Malachim. I mean, we're all familiar with these expressions. Rotzoi is like a one-word summing up of the bittul which comes from his bonanus, whether it be al pitam v'das or whether it be l'mayla mitam v'das, because you are longing and you are yearning and you are identifying with Telekut. However, he said, this bittul of hanochas atzmusei, he said, that doesn't come not from that and not from that. Kiim hu mitzad ha'toikev sheyesh b'nefesh lihaniach es atzmai ulevater rutzeneisov b'chol tziur koima shaloi. He said the Indian of bittul of hanochas atzmusei is not al pi his bonanas. Now that comes mitzad the strength, or what you might call the toikev, the deep power of the nefesh, the driving power that there is in the nefesh, to put himself aside, to lay himself aside, and to call it, cancel all of his desires, in the whole, what you might call, shape of his whole, how do you call it, up and down. His whole tziyur koima. Koima means like your height, and tziyur koima means all the different things that make up your your details. Yeah, well, not so much details. It's like your whole, how do you call it, the way you appear, the whole way you look. Yeah, the whole tziyur koima. That means that you name it, he can be mevatel himself. He says something in midas. If he's got a midah which is not according to that, he'll just reveal a tremendous power and he'll be mevatel. You say in Seichel, up to now he was of the opinion that Kaf was the understanding. That seemed to him that was Al-Pi Kedusha and it was fine. Now you reveal to him that that's not exactly the Kavanah. Boom. He'll put aside, he's Seichel and he'll just be bottled to the Kavanah. So who's supposed to know what the Kavanah is? How do we know? What is the emes? Well, for that you need a Rebbe. So I never know my Rebbe. The Rebbe reveals to you what you do, so you give yourself away. Bittul dahanov. That's what I'm saying. So he says, B'chol Shir Koimashali, in his whole height, the whole shape of his makeup. Hein b'sichlei umidoiso, both in his seichel and in his midas, she'iyah lahavayela, that everything about him should only be for the sake of the Eibishter. Now this we don't mean Shekol Ma'aseh Yu L'Shem Shemayim. That means, you're a bit of a Matthias, but you try to do everything according to Shem Shemayim. Here it means that he just gives himself away, everything to Elokus. Lehavaya levat. He's just, how do you call it? He's shaking his head. He's completely batel. Any Indian which is revealed to him Al-Pi Hamas, that's a divine Indian, he's that, and he's for it. Anything which is against that, he's against it. So that's a Indian which comes from Toikeif Hanefesh. What does it mean? Toikeif Hanefesh, what is it? In other words, deep inside, Ayid, there's this Indian of what we might call the Nitzot Eloki, the divine spark. That's called Eitan. You've heard the word Eitan? I'm not saying like Eitan as Rachi. Huh? Change.
Tanya, right?
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Right near the end of Kuntres Achre. And the Alter Rebbe Masva over there, Eison, it means strong, it means obstinate, it means primordial. How do you call it? Something that's way back. It's not limited in what you might call time. It's something way, way back, something beyond. And so the far, Ayid has got that Indian in him of a divine spark, but that's not limited in time, and it's obstinate, how do you call it? And it's got a unyielding strength about it. That's called Teikah. So he said the Indian of Bittul Varanoch, it comes from that. And you don't get to it through his bonnet. So you might say, well, how do you get to it? How do you reach that? So we could sit this at the two ways. We could say that going through the different levels that he is born has, that is like koshering out the nefesh. It's like a koshering process. But then you reach a point where it's possible for you, that inyan in your neshama to reveal itself. Because gradually all the things that might interfere with it have been, you've worked at it hard, and you've worked at his abundance, you come to Tshuka and Lakus, you're preparing the way for it. And another way is we could say that Inyan from Kabbalah Sel, Malchus Shamayim. You just makabel on yourself the Inyan from Kabbalah Sel, and just give yourself away altogether, and you don't ask any shaylas. Anila doidi. That's Inyan from El. Everybody says that El is a Rosh Hashanah, Anila doidi v'doidi li. It's not just Anila doidi. That's one of the first two ways. Otherwise, if it's Anila doidi v'doidi li, you have to wait till Yom Kippur for the doidi li. Yom Kippur is already Tishrei, it's not El. Yeah, the taich is that if you worry all by that anila doidi, but that toike for the neshama of giving yourself away, hidden in that is anyway the doidi. That's the inner and the nitz of Teloki, the Avis is anyway there. And then he's made into you in such a way that you just become, how do you call it? You might say you become his, as it were. Amir said that this is a Indian niflo that everything is lavaya lavade v'hainu shelo yaniach sichli b'shum inyan she'en elakus ki ve'en yanei elakus livot. He will never allow his mind or his reasoning to be put into anything except elakus. And I'll just say, well, I need all these other inyanim for all this. That's all you know. And they say about the Rebbe Rashab, I think I told you them last time, from the Alter Rebbe. That once the man, this was already in Rostov after the Rebbe left Lubavitch. And so the man brought wood for the winter. They used to have fires. Those days it's like fires with wood. So this man bought this big cart, for wood for the Rebbe's house. So, he said, who's going to pay me? So they said, you have to go into the Rebbe and he'll arrange the payment. So he came in and there was a couple of the important Chassidim were there in the room at the time. And the Rebbe Rashab said, what can I help you? So he said, if I can't give the bill for the wood, I bought, the wood. So the Rebbe said, yes. So he said, I bought 40 kilos or something, of wood, and each kilo costs this and this. So the price is this and that. So the Rebbe Rashab just looked at him and said, could you please repeat that? Could you say it again? I was sure that he hadn't chopped it. He didn't sort of understand it. So the guy repeated it again, a little bit slower, he sort of said it a bit more Sudar. It was a very simple equation. So the Rebbe Rashab said, would you just repeat that again, just repeat it. So he starts looking at these people, So he said, look, Rebbe said to him, each kilo costs so much. I bought so much. So much times so much is so much. So the Rebbe Rashab looked up at one of the people who was standing by him, and he said, he looks to me to be an Elecha, he looks like an honest person. He said, give him. He said, he looks like an honest person, give him. So two of the big cities were standing there. Their mouths just fell open. They'd just been hearing these Maimorim in Iron Base, And it's whole Indian from the Rebbe, and you can't even put, 10 times 40 is 400, so you can't even put it together. They're just dumbfounded, they couldn't figure it. The Rebbe didn't say he understood what he wanted, he just said, he looks as if he's honest, so you should pay him. So afterwards, when he left, the Rav Lander said that he was just so, his mouth was hanging over a bit with, amazement. So the Rebbe Rashab looked at him and he said, believe me, he said, I'm just not there at all. He said, I'm just not, ich bin in ganzen nicht dort. I'm just completely not there. So he said, I can't figure it. And he lost up. So that's what I'm a drag from our Rebbe. He's not there. He was, but he wasn't. He was there, but he wasn't. He wasn't in the world. We had that much on outside. But to a ring, he didn't know what was going on. So that's a Rebbe example. That if you get used to not putting your mind into things of this world, so you don't put your mind into them, so after a while you just get away from them. The next time you walk into a store and they ask you to pay them, and you say, listen, man, I don't know what the heck you want from me, then I don't know if that's exactly the way to do it. But
just hand them the biggest bill you have in your pocket and see if they want more.
That's, you know, well, anyway, listen, I'll start telling the misers. You know, there's a story of the middle of it. He paid the guy who read the Megillah, he paid him a big sum. The guy looked at it and he'd never seen it. Nobody had given him such a big, bill of money. So he said, Rabbi, I'm, tremendously thrilled to get that payment, but I think you must have made a mistake. That people don't give that type of bills for what I've been doing. That's not the way it's done. The middle Rebbe said, bat an eyelid. And the middle Rebbe said, yes, it's due to you. He said, you must keep it. He said, for us, he said, it's the first time in my life that I ever heard such a Shena Maisa. Because the middle Rebbe wasn't in Lubavitch. He was in another town. It was Purim. So he heard the Megillah from an ordinary Balkari. From a person who read the Megillah. He read it kosher, it was fine. But when he was in Lubavitch, he used to hear from his father. He used to hear from not in Lubavitch, in the Ozna, or the Adi, he used to hear from the Alter Rebbe. And when he heard the Alter Rebbe read the Megillah, he didn't hear any story. He heard the whole Giluim of Pnimis HaTorah from the Alter Rebbe. He said that I heard for the first time. He said, Shena Maisa. He don't know the story. The Middle Rebbe said, it's a very beautiful story. First time I ever heard it. He said, that's really beautiful. He said, I didn't know how much I gave you, but he said, you keep it. So we see you learn two in Yonim, the greatness of the Middle Rebbe. He didn't know what he was spoken out, but then he said, I never heard such a Gilui before. So the Rebbe says that you mustn't put your mind in anything which is not eloquent. What are we going to do with you guys now? You're all finished. Same in Midrash. You don't want anything to do with anything which is not an Inyan Eloki. Highest in eloquence. V'hainu, ad hidei misalik ritzvei noimehem. How can you possibly do that? You take your will away from them. In other words, why are we like we are? Because we let our will run away with our wills here and our wills there and our wills in something else. We want this, we want that. Remember, we have the Alter Rebbe brings down in Pasha Baloischa, in Likutei Torah, that the pnimius of Midas is rotten. The pnimius of Midas is rotten. Rotten and Midas are not the same thing. But the pnimius of Midas is really rotten. In other words, what you are emotionally aroused about, that's what you want. That's where your will really is. So the Rebbe said, if you take away your will from all the worldly things, then you don't want them. So much. וכידוע שיוכל להיות שגם אם יש איזה דבר טייבה וחמדה, even if there be a thing which is a tremendously geschmack טייבה דגזך, ומכל מוחם לא יסר ברוצן בזה, he won't be aroused with any will to that whatsoever, משום שמסלק רצוני מזה לבלתי לספויל. He says, not me. Well, I take my will away from it altogether. Everybody else say, what? This is like the Rebbe said somewhere else.
How do you do this?
It's all dependent on the will. So that's what he said. You have to have the teicha for the etzem nefesh. You have to have the hanachas atzmusa. So he said, take away your will. So we'll hold that. Even though usually we don't finish on a negative thing. Final. שבבינה נפרטו הפרטים שבנקודה בוים לידי תפיסה. Right.
This is a way to Is this the Avodah now?
It's a good question. Is this the Avodah now? Oh my boy, I'm sorry, but I would like to sell you an easy pill, but I can't. Dainu. I mean, I understand what you're asking. In modern day Lubavitch, you don't seem to hear this type of talk. So you might say, well, so the answer is that we learn that everything the Rebbeim said, that's like Moshe Rabbeinu. So everything they said, it's got a certain nitzchias to it. So if you come along and say, oh yeah, that was in Tov Reisham, or we're not Tov Shintam, well, yeah, don't take it too seriously, don't have to hold by that. Then in a way, you're expressing lack of faith in our Rebbeim. Chas v'shalom. It might be difficult nowadays. Yeah, under certain mamish to hold by all these young mamish hate Allah prati. But at least the fact that you know that that's the way you should be, well, that gives you a lot of chayt. That gives you a lot of take. You follow? And it helps you along. The Prophet in Zmanim like El. But you know this, you know. Somebody comes along, a lot of Baba misers and all sorts of Inyani and does. It's a not for me today, my son. And then gradually you become accustomed to it. Although we have to say that is shy to us nowadays.